Hi there. Do you want to kill the mood with your business peers? They keep talking about the cures and the ROC AUC of your machine learning models. I just deal with this guy right here and see how bad he is. Join me on this video to discover how to present numbers that actually matter. Hi there, I'm Kelwin Fernandes, your AI advisor, and welcome to another AI Shot. In this one, I will talk about the difference between technical and business metrics and why the business ones were more relevant than the technical ones. So when I started doing consulting in AI over a decade ago, I felt like the urge. I was like obliged to include a lot of technical metrics, a lot of technical names on my slides when I was presenting to my business partners, like about the ROC AUC, the accuracy, the F1 scores, showing the precision recall, the mean square error, like all of these technical metrics. And the more technical metrics I presented, the less engaged they were with the project. I was kind of building some distance between them and myself, or between them and the project, which put me like at a higher level of technicality of how I will be like seen as an expert, but I will decrease the engagement I got from them. And engagement is super critical to make any project succeed, okay? So as I gain more experience on doing AI consulting over the years, I understood that they only care about the business components of the project, about the business metrics, and you as data scientists should also care only about these components. Okay, and this is an advice that I constantly give to my team. When they are working on a project, I always ask them, what is the business KPI here? How can you measure this in terms of number of users, in terms of dollars, in terms of revenue, etc.? Why? Because that is what matters in the end. It's super embarrassing to go to a project saying, we got the accuracy, a model with the accuracy of 95% or 99%, and then putting it into practice and seeing that it's not moving revenue, or that it's not creating, it's not reducing sharp actual. So always care about the business KPI. So we created this tool to talk about KPIs inspired by our Data Ignite methodology. And if you click on the link below, you can download this PDF that we use to talk about the KPIs with our clients. Okay, and this has three parts. Okay? And basically, the three types of KPIs you could have in any project. Okay, the technical metrics are what we call the Sidekick. Okay, for example, here you have things like accuracy. Okay, here you have things like the ROC AUC. You have things like the mean square. Okay, all very fancy words that nobody cares about when they have to pay the bills. Okay, then we have the hero, and this is like the most important kind of metrics that you should track. Okay, actually, any stories about the hero, right? And these are things like the average revenue per user, like your retention rates, okay, like the customer lifetime value, okay, all of these kind of business metrics that actually matter, okay, and these are the kind of metrics that you should present, okay. And then there is a third kind of metrics that most people tend to forget, which is the billing, okay, and it's basically the other KPI that could get compromised as a result of improving your hero. So if your hero succeeds, sometimes will be at the expense of another KPI. For example, you can for sure increase the average revenue per user only targeting the high income users, okay? But you will hurt your overall revenue, for example, your yearly revenue, for example, because you will be getting higher revenue from less customers, okay, only from the higher paying ones. So keeping in mind this hero and billing will help you like shield your model against potential failures, okay? But remember something here, the story is always about the hero and the villain. It's never about the psyche. And data scientists tend to forget about this, tend to focus just too much about the psyche, about the technical component. I did it myself. My team is constantly doing ML. We are always, forcing ourselves to think about the hero, okay? And sometimes the answer I get when I ask a technical data scientist about the business KPI of the hero is that they don't know what is going to be the impact of this model in production, so they don't know how to estimate the hero. They don't know how to actually estimate the business KPI on the lab while they are building the model. So my suggestion for you here, the strategy that we apply is to run simulations, okay? To run simulations about what is going to be this business impact. Let me give you an example. For example, we built this project of predictive maintenance, and of course our first intuition was to measure like the F1 scores of what is a problem for this model that was predicting the probability of an asset failing on the next week, etc. of course, the ROC AUC, all these technical metrics. And then, of course, we had to pass through this tool, to our data AI tool. And we saw, hey, we are only focusing on the technical components. What are the business metrics that we can simulate here? Of course, we don't know how to properly estimate future damages, etc. But let's try to do an easy simulation here. So what we did was make some assumptions on the way this model was going to be used. For example, let's say that every day the inspection team does, inspections in a round-robin way. So one after the other, after the other, after the other. And in general, so that was their current approach. And they, had a certain performance level, like a downtime of 5% per year. Okay, so the failures led to a downtime of 5% per year over a year. So our simulation was like, if instead of going one by one on the assets, doing maintenance, what will have happened if you follow the model predictions? So first you go to the machine that most likely will fail, then the other one, then the other one, and the other. So every day we run a simulation of what happens. So what is the machine that is going to fail? And we assume that by doing this correction, you will fail the issue, and the next day you will fail the next one. And what we observe is that you could decrease, so you could identify the most likely machines that will fail, and by that you lower your downtime rate by, let's say, 2%. So the final one will be 3%, and this meant at the end of the year, this amount of millions of dollars in production. Okay, so this is the kind of metric that will move the needle. Of course, I made a lot of assumptions here. I made the assumption that the technician will find a failure if I indicated him that the machine will fail. I made the assumption that they could only repair one machine per day. I made a lot of assumptions, but I created a storyline that will create engagement with my client, that will put the project in perspective for them of whether or not this will matter. If I came to a meeting saying this model has an F1 score of 70%, nobody will care about it. Okay, nobody will even understand why is that. But if I tell them, it seems that by changing our policy for maintenance, we can move our downtime from 5% to 3%. That is something that creates that resonates on them. Okay, that they will sleep over that idea, and that will create engagement with the project. Same thing with another project. We were valuing assets. Okay, and basically we had the probability of an asset being sold. And we knew which assets were going to be sold and which assets were not. The ROC AUC of the model was good. Let's say it was whatever, 80%, 90%. I don't care. Remember, the story is not about the sidekick, it's about the hero. And I have to knock myself every time this happens because we have the tendency of talking about the technical metric. So, but I mean, the goal of this project was to change the price, okay? For the assets that were not going to sell, the assets that were called, let's say, the called assets, if this is a probability of selling, we're going to lower the price of those assets. The issue is that in general, we don't know what's going to be the impact of lowering the price. So what we did is historically running a simulation of the assets that where we lower the price and what was the quantile, what was the probability that the model assigned to those assets. So we saw what was their sales rate in the future. So we run this simulation and we said, if you did this not only for these assets, but for all the called assets, you will increase revenue by 20%, okay? And this means this amount of dollars, okay? It's way more engaging to say, if you lower the price of your raw assets, of your cold assets, we estimate that sales will increase this amount, than to say, my model has a ROC AUC of 80%, okay? Of course, there are a lot of assumptions, and you need to show these assumptions to your client, but these assumptions are way easier to understand and will give them much more insights and much more information to make the decision of putting the model in production or not than a technical metric, okay? So that is my advice for you. Remember that business metrics will create perspective will create engagement, and engagement is what you need to bring your project to life and to transform your project into the next flagship initiative. I hope you like this video. Remember to like, subscribe, and activate the notifications. Hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.